All right, happy Friday and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for March 28th, 2025, the 13th Friday of the year, and International Women in Music Day, promoting and appreciating the accomplishments of women in music, and there are many. It was established in the month of March because March had already been established as Women's History Month. Today is also the 24th day of Lent for Christians around the world, and on the other side of the world, Southeast Asia was hit with a massive 7.7 magnitude earthquake overnight.
I woke up, everything was moving. And so I woke up my partner and I said, hey, it's earthquake. I didn't panic, but I was terrified.
There is a lot of damage being reported. There are reports from ABC News, who has a reporter in Myanmar, that people are trapped in the rubble of collapsed buildings and construction workers are missing in Bangkok. This will be a story that will be updated throughout the day. You would expect there are going to be casualty numbers that will be updated throughout the day as well. Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife, Usha, the second lady, and other U.S. delegates are in Greenland today for what the White House is calling a cultural visit. Not everyone in Greenland is happy about it, and the Prime Minister is calling it an aggressive move by the Trump administration. And at the White House, President Trump's former personal attorney, who became counselor to the president, Alina Habba, is being sworn in by President Trump today as the new U.S. attorney for New Jersey. Then the president is scheduled to fly home to Florida this afternoon. One of the big headlines coming out of the White House that the media was quickly trying to get all twisted up was the announcement concerning New York Representative Elise Stefanik.
We welcome you back with some breaking news. President Trump is going to withdraw Elise Stefanik's nomination as UN ambassador. Now, we can tell you exactly why. Here is what he said on Truth Social. As we advance our America First agenda, it is essential that we maintain every Republican seat in Congress. We must be unified to accomplish our mission, and Elise Stefanik has been a vital part of our efforts from the very beginning. I have asked Elise, as one of my biggest allies, to remain in Congress to help me deliver historic tax cuts, great jobs, record economic growth, a secure border, energy dominance, peace through strength, and much more so we can make America great again. With a very tight majority, I don't want to take a chance on anyone else running for Elise's seat. The people love Elise, and with her, we have nothing to worry about come Election Day. There are others that can do a good job at the United Nations. Therefore, Elise will stay in Congress, rejoin the House leadership team, and continue to fight for our amazing American people. Speaker Johnson is thrilled. I look forward to the day when Elise is able to join my administration in the future. She is absolutely fantastic, all caps. Thank you, Elise. So what might have sounded like some sort of scandal is not that at all. It is simply about Elise Stefanik keeping her seat in Congress.
That's Newsmax's Katrina Zish on American Agenda. To the dismay of some, no scandal, no negative story. Just the president working to protect the Republicans' slim lead in the House with so many important votes coming up. The one thing that did jump out from the president's post on social is that Stefanik will rejoin the House leadership team. Before he nominated her for ambassador, remember, she was chair of the House Republican Conference. Congressional correspondent Kilmeny Ducard explains.
We do know that she will be rejoining the leadership team. That is a statement that I think took a lot of people by surprise on Capitol Hill. That doesn't probably mean that she'll be House Republican Conference chair. That is now occupied by Republican Congresswoman Lisa McClain. Most likely, this will be a position that House Speaker Mike Johnson creates for her. So again, huge bombshell news here on Capitol Hill. We had indications that this was coming, that the White House was mulling over this decision, and it appears they have landed on the fact that Elise Stefanik will be best poised to serve in the House of Representatives in a leadership position where Republicans can get those numbers up ahead of those votes.
Newsmax correspondent Kilmeny Ducard on Capitol Hill. As for the budget and the one big, beautiful bill, this is Lydia Serrani with Senator Ron Johnson.
Balancing a budget. You might be asking yourself, hey, if I can balance a budget and run my household, then why can't the federal government do the same? I mean, it can't be that hard, right? It's common sense. Well, that's exactly what Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson is asking, writing an op-ed in which he asks, is this any way to run a budget? Johnson saying that the federal government gives less scrutiny to its spending than a private company or even your family. Joining me now with more is the man himself, Wisconsin Senator, a member of the Committee on Finance, Ron Johnson. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Senator, do you think the federal government, they need to focus more on how much we're spending, and the fact that Elon Musk is getting so much hatred for it, but yet everybody always says the government just spends our money with total disregard, and yet finally you have somebody that's trying to hold it in regard, trying to have some accounting for it, and he's getting so much hate for it.
Yeah, Elon Musk and Donald Trump are doing a great job through DOGE exposing the grotesque levels of waste, fraud, and abuse. But quick little story. About 3 years ago, when we were in the midst of an omnibus spending debate, I asked my Republican colleagues, hey, anybody know how much in total the federal government spent last year? Crickets. I went up to the Washington Press Corps, asked them the same question. Somebody said, well, it's over $1 trillion. No, that's just discretionary spending. I mean, total spending. Right now, discretionary is about 24% of our federal budget. The other 76% is called mandatory. It's on automatic pilot. And by the way, most people think it's all Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. No, there's $1.3 trillion of other mandatory spending as well. So the problem is we have no process for looking at total government spending. And the other problem is we spent $4.4 trillion in 2019, had the pandemic, won a massive spending spree, spent $6.5 trillion, and we keep spending at that level. No family, if they had an illness, had to borrow $50,000, spend that money. and their family member got well would keep borrowing $50,000 and spend at that elevated level. That would be insane, but that's exactly what the federal government did. So there's no justification for spending at 7.3 if you take 2019 spending, leave Social Security and Medicare and even Medicaid alone. Don't touch those programs. Just spend what you need to spend. Inflate the other outlays from 2019 based on population growth and inflation. You need to be spending $6.5 trillion, $700 billion less than we're spending today. So this is entirely reasonable in terms of returning to a pre-pandemic level spending. By the way, if you go back to Clinton 1998, do the same calculation, it'd be $5.5 trillion. I don't think we were spending too little in 1998 under Clinton or too little under President Trump in 2019. So this is a reasonable way of doing this. I have a process that I'm proposing, basically a budget review process like we go and do in the business world. You know, senators, House members, the administration have a panel and bring administration officials with their CFOs before this panel, have them justify, what their budget is. Why are you spending more than a fully inflated 2019 or a fully inflated 1998 under Clinton, which, by the way, passed the Senate 77-22. Wildly bipartisan. We had a surplus that year. What a concept. But we need to scrutinize all federal spending. If we do it like DOGE is doing, I think we can dramatically reduce the baseline spending level back to a pre-pandemic level.
Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, a member of the Senate Finance Committee, on Newsmax. If they did it like DOGE, right, he said the government needs to do it like DOGE, or the House needs to go over these things like DOGE. If they did it like DOGE, there wouldn't be a need for DOGE. And you've heard cuts of Bill Clinton from when he was president talking about how we must cut government spending, which he did. He even laid people off, and nobody complained about it back then, which has been pointed out on many shows over the last few weeks. Same with Obama. If I knew anything about math, I wouldn't be a radio host. I've said that many times on the radio, but it makes absolutely no sense at all that we would keep spending as much money as we did during the pandemic, when they handed out money to everyone for everything. It shouldn't be that difficult. I mean, talk about common sense government. Greta Van Susteren spoke about it as well with Senate leader John Thune.
Well, we aren't in a pandemic anymore, and so it's time to normalize some of these programs. So we're looking for ways to gain efficiency, save money, and modernize our federal government in a way that other businesses around the country operate and run.
All right, Elon Musk is in the executive branch. He's the DOGE guy over there. Is there any self-reflection expected in terms of saving money in the United States Senate? Will there be any sort of DOGE-type review to see whether or not there might be some waste and I don't want to use the word fraud, but there's some waste in the Senate? I realize it's smaller, not a lot, but...
Right. I mean, and of course, the operation here relative to the rest of the federal government, as you point out, is relatively small by comparison. But no agency or entity of government ought to be exempt from this. I mean, we ought to be drilling down, whether it's the United States Senate or the House or the White House or the Department of Education, obviously, which is where we think we can find a lot of savings. But every agency of government ought to be subject to this effort. And Elon Musk and DOGE, I think, is looking again at the totality of the government to try and determine if there are ways we can do things better and more efficiently. And in this kind of a scrub of our federal government is long overdue. It really is. We've needed this for a long time, and I think the American taxpayers demand and deserve that, and we need to make sure that we deliver for them. And so I just met this morning with some officials from the White House, from Russ Vought from OMB, as well as Kevin Hassett, the President's Council of Economic Advisors, and some folks from Treasury to talk about how can we incorporate these DOGE savings into legislation that Congress can act on. And there's some conversation around a rescissions bill, which is a mechanism whereby we can find some savings if the White House suggests it. So we're working with them, all driving in the same direction.
Senate Leader Republican John Thune of South Dakota. No government agency should be exempt from DOGE. And he also said this is the kind of scrubbing that the federal government is long overdue for. But yet most Democrats are still against the Department of Government Efficiency. and saving Americans and saving America money. And not one Democrat has spoken out yet against the ridiculous violence on Tesla vehicles, in some cases Tesla owners, and against Elon Musk. This was the topic of discussion on Chris Plant and the Right Squad last night.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Teslas, actually, because there was a big development today in what the administration is calling domestic terrorism, and correctly so, in the attacks, and there have been many, and there are more scheduled for Saturday, on Teslas and Tesla dealerships across the country. The Las Vegas police have made an arrest in the attack at a collision center last week, attacking Teslas.
Preliminary assessment of the suspect's social media activity indicates some very loose but self-proclaimed ties to the Communist Party USA social media group, as well as social media groups called Revolutionary Communist International, Hidden Palestine, Palestine Action, and a variety of other social media groups.
So the Communist Party USA and Hamas, the Red-Green Coalition, this is today's Democratic Party. They're firebombing.
Communist Party.
Well, that's right. Yeah, but he's a Harris voter, and he's a Biden voter, and he's an Obama voter. He's not a Trump guy. No, this is what the Democrats are doing. I mean, come on.
I'm just telling you, communists absolutely, the far left communists, they absolutely hate Democrats. They hate Democrats more than they hate Republicans.
More than they hate Teslas? I don't know.
No, I don't know about Teslas.
I used to host a program with a self-avowed communist or socialist, whichever one she was that day, and she voted for Kamala, so I don't know how much they actually hate them. But look, this is a great development. These Tesla attacks are absolutely domestic terrorism. It's wild to me that Democrats won't acknowledge the reality. But they had a website just a couple of weeks ago where they were publishing the addresses of public or private individuals who happen to own Teslas so that people could go out and set their cars on fire, key their cars. But the hilarious part of all of this is that these two people are too stupid, apparently, to realize that Teslas have, like 6 cameras built into them and can see exactly who you are as you're walking by with your key in your hand. So they're just begging to be arrested, and I'm sure the administration will follow through.
Honestly, and I love the Las Vegas police, and it's true, the Communist Party, and they love Hamas, and they love the Communist Party. And in the United States, we have 2 parties, the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. These guys are Democrats.
I think I don't see them out there championing Donald Trump or waving American flags. But the other piece of this, too, you talk about the doxing really quick. You talk about the full circle moment. How many Tesla owners, until maybe just recently, are Democrats? And so they're like, go out and key the car of our own. That's a good way to go ahead and expand your base.
But I also can't get over the fact that those guys might have been communists, but you had Tim Walz out there cheering for the stock price of Tesla to go down. You had Democrat Senator Mark Kelly out there saying he was trading in his Tesla for a Chevy Tahoe. This is just 3 or 4 months after Joe Biden spent every cent of his political capital trying to get more people to drive electric cars. So to me, this just says this was never about changing the climate. This was about power and trying to force people's behaviors. Because if you would have told any of us 10 years ago, Democrats would be attacking electric vehicle companies and Donald Trump would be selling electric cars on the White House lawn, they'd slap you in the face.
And Tim Walz was cheering the stock price declining as his own state's pension fund is invested in Tesla stock.
Classic Tim.
And it is the Democrat Party, make no mistake, from the Senate and the House of Representatives to governors and elected politicians, Democrats across the country, vilifying Elon Musk to the point where his life is in danger every day that he gets out of bed. He has to surround himself with security people.
Chris Plant and the Right Squad, weeknights, 10 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. Check it out tonight. Around this time yesterday, we had the breaking news from Attorney General Pam Bondi on the arrest of an MS-13 gang leader. Newsmax border correspondent Jason Jones, Sheriff Mark Lamb, and former FBI Special Agent Jonathan Gilliam all weighed in.
What just is the stark difference between the 2 administrations and how they're handling this?
No, you're absolutely right. And look, this is exactly what the American people wanted. Why did we open our borders up to the world and the world's problems and let them walk among us? And these U.S.-based street gangs, I can't stress to you enough how the synergy with them and the Mexican cartels has what brought so much of this deadly poison into the country. So it's good to see the FBI finally going in the right direction, and to see Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice start to do this. But I will be a little critical here, too. This is a 24-year-old. Why are we not told who he is, what he was doing, what his background is? Instead, we're doing this whole secret thing again about how we can't talk about it. I'll tell you right now, guys, I'm totally against that model. It is about illuminating these problems so we can eliminate and get them out of this country and tell the American people the breadth and scope of the problem we've been dealing with.
Yeah, Sheriff, do you think, to Jason's point, do you think that these arrests are showing Americans the true breadth and scope of the problem, which the Biden administration, as we all know, tried to hide for such a long time?
Oh, absolutely. I agree with Jason 100%. These arrests are showing the American people. First of all, it's what the American people asked for when they voted for President Trump to come into office. This is what they asked for. Second, it showcases just how many bad people came in under the last 4 years. We always hear the left talk about, well, what about all the good people? There's a lot of bad people mixed in with those good people, a lot of MS-13, a lot of TDA, and this arrest shows you just how many bad people. These are leaders of the MS-13 gang. So I think it's what the American people want. It's what we expect. And I agree with Jason, though. I think that they need to be continue to encourage them to be very transparent as to who we are removing. I think controlling the narrative is what is going to be paramount as they go about this mission.
Yeah, Jonathan, I mean, that's one thing that we have seen from the Trump administration is show us the work. And they're doing that. We saw Secretary Noem down there in El Salvador prison. We see all of these different ICE agent arrests, but they're documenting everything as they go to show the American people that they're doing the job that President Trump, he was elected to do. This is what American voters wanted, and they're actually showing the proof, where the Biden administration, they wouldn't give you a lot of information at all.
Right, and you know, when you look at whether it's you're talking about the Tesla bomber there earlier, you're talking about MS-13, all the things that we're talking about are either leftists or were made possible by leftists that are in our government. And that's very interesting when you take a step back and you look at all these individual problems like MS-13 or Tren de Agua. You look at all these different groups that are here causing problems in this country. It's because of the border, which was a Democrat issue that they just would not confront. And so they've created these large problems. And that should also go along with this. I agree with everything everybody's saying here. These people, we need a master class on who MS-13 is. You ask most people, they won't even be able to tell you where they came from or what MS stands for. We need a master class on who all these people are, and then we need to know when they're caught and what they're connected to and how they were able to flourish. That is also very important so the American people can understand exactly what President Trump's administration is up against and what they're doing.
Former Navy SEAL, FBI special agent, and author Jonathan Gilliam on Newsmax. And let's wrap it up with a great segment from former Navy SEAL Carl Higbee's Frontline with fellow Newsmax hosts Greg Kelly and Rob Schmitt.
All right, so every Thursday I do this thing called Comments for Carl, where I react to some viewers.
Oh my gosh, Comments for Carl.
Weird, huh?
Alliteration. They both start with C.
They were big words for me. So
totally. Keep going.
Yeah. Okay.
You're doing great.
We're gonna have to record. We got some for you. We got some for you guys. All right. So, Greg, this is a serious one though. In response to your interview with President Trump, you got this is from a user named Pancake Batter, actually.
Hey,
Greg Kelly has been an Ashley Babbitt's strongest advocate. I'm glad to see this part of the interview with the president highlighted. Greg, you did ask Donald Trump. You obviously had a fantastic interview with him. You asked point blank about Ashley Babbitt. I don't think anybody's brought that up to him in probably 3 years.
Well, President Trump has brought it up, and I am so happy that he does that. He's a very special person, only him, and he's never forgotten. And I know he didn't forget. He mentioned her possibly 2 weeks ago, but I wanted to make sure that he knew that technically the Justice Department is opposed to the wrongful death suit. They're still defending, like the government is responsible for the death of Ashley Babbitt.
Right.
That cop shot her.
Point blank.
And not one police department in the world, well, in the country, could justify that.
Right.
It can't be justified. It's wrongful death. So the Justice Department shouldn't be fighting this case. I think they should be in settlement talks, and President Trump said he would look into it, and I believe he is.
Yeah.
Imagine that will change now with this new government.
Yeah, Rob, I got one for you from someone named M. Said, at Rob Schmitt NYC is hands down the best to watch. I'm saying it on my show, Rob. Easy on the eyes, intelligent and fun. Newsmax, don't lose this guy. He's my fave.
That's my burner account, actually.
Oh, okay. There was Pierre Delecto?
Yeah. Pierre Delecto, that's my thing.
That was the Mitt Romney.
He got a real one. I got pancake batter.
But you got real content,
No,
Greg.
that's true. So, Rob, what do you think? What's it like being so good looking?
Radical plastic surgery can work for you, too. You know?
Yeah, going under the knife.
Get a little pile of money and just carve it up, and you'll be okay.
I don't know. Shut up! I'm turning 42. My hair is thinning. I'm getting old. My bones are breaking. So, whatever.
That's all of us.
You're going to tell us another Navy SEAL story about how you're... No? All right, good. You're not going to bore us with more stories from the Navy.
Said the pilot who was in the Marine Corps that it's Department of the Navy. Don't say men's department. All right.
It's a good one.
Usually,
it's a classic.
we usually do confrontational negative ones. So yesterday I spoke about cutting junk food and SNAP benefits and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Someone said, actually thoughtfully, Carl, I watch your show every night. Tonight I take issue with your comments. I'm on the SNAP program. I'm 83 years old, 5 feet tall, and 108 pounds. I drink one 12-ounce soda every single day, a Pepsi, and had one piece of chocolate cake, 2 cookies a day. I'm not obese. Well, you know what? The point is...
Hey, wait. Are you going to straighten out this very kind woman who watches your show? Whatever diet she's on, Carl, it's working for her. But go, by all means, go ahead.
We wanted to bring it up. We got to leave it right there. Greg, Rob.
Wait, is she okay, this lady?
She's fine.
This is the last of this segment you're ever going to see.
No way!
The segment is called Unfiltered, featuring Greg Kelly and Rob Schmitt on Frontline with Carl Higbie every Thursday afternoon. And they'll probably do it again next Thursday. By the way, the president also signed an executive order yesterday called Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, targeting 21 Smithsonian museums, education and research centers, and the National Zoo. Included in the order is the removal of historical context relating to race and gender, restoration of monuments and statues of Confederates that were taken down in 2020 after the killing of George Floyd, and prohibiting transgender women from being included in the upcoming American Women's History Museum. And in a near party line vote on Thursday, the Senate voted to strike down a Biden-era rule capping most bank overdraft fees at $5, which could allow banks to keep charging big overdraft fees, obviously. The banking industry likes it. Consumer groups do not. I think some of the older people there in the Senate heard some of the younger people saying no cap, and they just misunderstood what it meant. On Wall Street, stocks opened slightly lower this morning after closing in the red again yesterday. Cryptocurrency also slightly lower this morning. Actually, Bitcoin down quite a bit, down almost $3,000 at 84,000 and change, at least at the time of this recording. And be sure to keep up with all of the news and breaking developments throughout the day and throughout the weekend on Newsmax, N2, and at Newsmax.com. It all begins each and every day with Wake Up America. Don't forget about Wake Up America Weekend Edition and a weekend filled of fantastic programming like America Right Now with Tom Basili, Saturday Report, Saturday Agenda, Sunday Agenda, Savage Nation with Michael Savage, and much more. Also, make sure you have the Newsmax app so you can listen and stay up to date anywhere, anytime. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Continue to share it with your friends and family. NASCAR rolls into Martinsville, Virginia this weekend, and my man, Joey Logano, 3-time NASCAR Cup champ, needs at least a top 5 finish. A win would be awesome, but at least a top 5 finish. Hey, enjoy your weekend doing whatever it is you love to do. Be safe and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.